It's been a long time since the Spawn movie came out, so why hasn't there been a Spawn remake yet? Well, a Spawn reboot hasn't happened due to a lack of effort on the part of its creator, Todd McFarlane. McFarlane revealed to IGN in 2005 his plans for a Spawn reboot, one that would take a grittier, more realistic approach than the previous cinematic take on the character. In this 2005 interview, McFarlane expressed ambitions for the reboot, which have remained fairly consistent over the next 2 decades. He specifically requested that a Spawn reboot not be entirely focused on Spawn. He wanted it to be about humans, with Spawn only appearing in a few scenes, similar to how the shark in Jaws isn't in every sequence of the masterpiece. He also wanted an R rating to distinguish it from other superhero films, while also portraying Spawn as a movie monster capable of killing anyone rather than a superhero. McFarlane was knee-deep in writing this project at the time, but he believed it wouldn't be an expensive endeavor and hoped that, due to its small scale and limited budget, it could be in theaters by Halloween the following year. That never occurred. That's not surprising given that Hollywood wasn't exactly enamored with R-rated superheroes at the time, and 1990s comic book mainstays like Spawn were in the comic book characters fronting the biggest titles at your local movie theater. The state of the superhero movie landscape at the time made it uninspiring that any further updates on the Spawn reboot would take years. McFarlane, on the other hand, announced in 2013 that the project was his top priority. While he noted that his various commitments prevented him from focusing on the film all day, every day, he also stated that he was preparing to direct his screenplay for Spawn. He also reiterated that his version for a Spawn reboot would be significantly smaller and more low-key than typical superhero films, with a hope of beginning production in 2014. Interestingly, Jamie Foxx revealed in an interview that one character he would love to play in the film was none other than Spawn. Another major update to this production would require 3 years. This update came just days before Deadpool's February 2016 release, and it changed the modern perception of how financially viable R-rated superhero films could be. Todd McFarlane's most recent comments confirmed that Spawn reboot would not be a typical superhero or an action film. Because the film was supposed to star a cop, McFarlane said that it would feel more like a mashup of The Departed and Paranormal Activity. He also revealed that part of the appeal of making a Spawn film on such a low budget was that it increased his chances of directing it. The following year, Spawn received a substantial update that went beyond McFarlane speaking about the project in the press. Blumhouse Productions signed on to help get the production made. This news came as Blumhouse is fresh off early 2017 hits like Split and Get Out, making their involvement in Spawn all the more intriguing and potentially promising. McFarlane's insistence that Spawn be made on a small scale with few big special effects made it a perfect fit for the budget-conscious executives at Blumhouse. At the point, it appeared that Spawn was finally getting off the ground. A year later, Foxx was cast as the titular character of Spawn, allowing him to realize the dreams he'd expressed in 2013. On paper, casting an Oscar-winning actor and a beloved actor like Foxx in the role of a superhero, even one with more brutal tendencies than, say, Spider-Man, seems like a no-brainer. However, considering how McFarlane has described Spawn's presence in the film in interviews, Foxx playing the role seems strange. Spawn is a monster that would only be seen sporadically by moviegoers, making hiring an actor in the role that people would understandably want to see a lot more of an odd choice. Aside from the perplexing dissonance, Foxx's casting appeared to be another promising step forward for Spawn. Another exciting development occurred a few months later when Jeremy Renner was cast as Spawn's lead character, police officer Twitch Williams. If Spawn was to be the film's answer to the shark in Jaws, then Williams was to be its Sheriff Brody, a normal person caught up in a larger-than-life and terrifying situation. While announcing the casting, McFarlane told Deadline that he saw Renner as the ideal choice to embody an everyday human who could stand in stark contrast to Spawn's supernatural horrors. Spawn was on a roll with Foxx and Renner officially cast, not to mention Blumhouse as a producer. After more than a decade of writing, perhaps the world was about to meet a new big-screen version of this Image Comics mainstay. But the good times couldn't last indefinitely. Months of radio silence on Spawn followed the news of Renner's casting, with financial difficulties being the obvious cause of the project's demise. McFarlane would emphasize Spawn's adult aspirations once more in an early 2019 interview, this time emphasizing how there would be no comedy or bursts of joy in this reboot. McFarlane revealed a few months later that Spawn was in a holding pattern. He mentioned that there were several financiers interested in the film, but they had all different issues or goals for the project. Weighing the benefits and drawbacks of each distributor the film would go to was also keeping Spawn on the sidelines, though McFarlane stressed that Spawn was not yet dead. Another R-rated superhero film had piqued people's interest in Spawn by the end of 2019. McFarlane revealed that The Joker had piqued the interest of studios in a dark, R-rated comic book adaptation that lacked the usual hallmarks of a superhero film. Still, Spawn was relegated to being something McFarlane mentioned in interviews or on social media. The COVID-19 pandemic that brought the entertainment industry to a halt at the start of 2020 only added to Spawn's development challenges. Even with the addition of a new screenwriter in 2021, and both Jason Blum and Jamie Foxx revealing as recently as August 2022 that Spawn was on the way, it didn't appear that Spawn will be escaping development hell anytime soon. We've all been in this situation before. Spawn looks like it's going to happen, only for the potential to just fizzle away. One of the difficulties facing Spawn is the inherent difficulty in securing financing for any film made outside of the traditional Hollywood system. It's difficult to make any movie, but it's especially difficult when you're not working with Warner Bros. Or Universal Pictures. Getting all of those dollars aligned, let alone pleasing the financiers once you've received monetary commitments from them, is a difficult task. Even someone with decades of experience in the entertainment industry such as Todd McFarlane cannot magically remove the challenges inherent in indie filmmaking. But McFarlane himself may be more problematic. In terms of scandals or inappropriate behavior, the creator of Spawn in the comics is not a controversial figure that Hollywood would ever want to support. However, he is a first-time feature film director with only a handful of music videos under his belt, only one of which has been released since 2009. He's also a guy whose only writing credits on IMDb are for when characters like Venom or Spawn are credited to him in movies, TV shows, or video games. McFarlane has done some character artwork for a few video games and worked on some designs for the 2000 Adam Sandler comedy Little Nicky, but he lacks experience in the world of feature films. Handing over a budget significantly smaller than The Joker, let alone The Avengers, to a guy with no experience in filmmaking is a big step for any studio. This is especially true when it comes to a comic book adaptation that McFarlane has boasted about only featuring its title character sporadically, even when the oppressively dark film The Joker featured a titular character in nearly every scene. Would people come to see a Spawn movie that was more police procedural than Spawn adventure if you gave McFarlane the money to make it? Any one of these obstacles may be sufficient for a film studio to overlook. However, combining them all explains why this project has not progressed. Perhaps in the future, audiences all over the world will flock to theaters to see the first big-screen adaptation of Spawn in 3 decades. McFarlane has even hinted that his vision for the project could end up being reimagined as a prestige streaming show. Perhaps this is the path that will lead to the creation of a new live-action Spawn property. For the time being, a new Spawn film does not appear to be on the horizon.